Good morning and welcome to a very special bonus video, as yesterday the brand new version of Lightroom just came out, version 12, and it's a socking great update, massive. Some really good features on there, one or two ones that I personally won't use but other people will. So I'm going to give my perspective as a pretty ordinary user. I'm specialised in landscapes, I do film photography, I like street photography, so I rarely do model shoots, I don't do weddings these days or anything like that, but I want to test it out from a real world perspective. This isn't a comprehensive review. I won't go into the depth of the features, but I'll just run through how they work with me and my computer, which is a late 2018, early 2019 Mac, iMac, 27-inch screen, 40 gigs of memory, and 3 terabyte hard drive, and see how it copes with these new AI enhancements. So without further ado, I'll stick it up on screen and let's get going. So I've got some images here that I want to sort of use as practice runs. We've got everything from portraits to flower pictures, outdoor with lots of people, objects, images that need things removing with content aware, and the AI powered tools which I want to explore. So let's get started with the new masking features for people. So here we have a portrait of my friend Lorraine, who's a lovely lady, and this was taken at a camera club one night a few years ago now, and not the sort of thing I would normally do, but on this occasion I had access to lighting and so forth, so I don't normally take pictures like this. So we have the new masking panel to your right here, and that sort of gives us the new options: subject, sky, background, but also people, and it's already detected person number 1. So if I click on her icon, this gives a much bigger range of options. So with this first option selects the entire person, but what you can do is select within that a number of other options, and so we've got face and skin, so that excludes certain other items. So we do body skin there, so that's her hand, her neck, her shoulders, great for portrait photography. Eyebrows, it all looks rather comical, doesn't it, with the contrasting colours, but this is going to speed up workflow for so many people. Eye sclera, so that's the background of the eyes, not the actual pupils, and the iris in the pupil, so you can do some really quite targeted work here, and it's quicker. You're not wasting time creating selections and refining them, because they're pretty well all there. Now I know that you could probably do this more accurately in Photoshop, and for really detailed work you would go to that, and similar enhancements are being done in Photoshop. But okay, so let's say we want to do almost everything except the black jumper. So we'll do the face and the skin, the body skin, the eyebrows, the eyes. So we're just going to do an adjustment on her lips and hair. So that's basically her. Create mask, and there we got a whole selection of masks already created, so you can now adjust these individually. So take the overlay off. So we're going to adjust the hair. Let's say we want to give her a little bit of colour in her hair, so we're just sort of warming a colour up. Maybe take the exposure down a bit on the hair, add a little bit of contrast, some texture just to bring out the different strands. So that was very easily done. Let's go and do the face. So face and skin. So I think probably what we want to do here, and the body, is maybe soften her down a little bit, take down some of the texture. So just pulling down the texture. Now we are starting to get that glassy look, which you can overdo, but you can maybe keep the texture up a little bit, take down the clarity a touch, So there you are. There's a little bit of modifications to that, and bear in mind the other thing we can do with this is we can invert all these masks, or we can stop using them. So there we are. That's quick person retouching. Be ideal for doing you know, anybody in a portrait studio. They'll be able to knock them out pretty quickly, and very helpful to do this, because selecting things is quite a challenge, and if you're making the wrong selections, correcting the selections can be a pain in the ass. So let's see if we can select some more of the other options. So let's select the background. Let's see what that does. So again, perfect selection of the background. What we want to do to the background, I think overlay off. So that's the O key, don't forget O. And it's kind of a gungy brown colour. What would it look like if it was bluer? Yeah, I think that's kind of a nicer colour. Exposure down a bit, maybe. Take the texture away. We just want to see the rain. Not too worried about what's in the background. Yeah, so you can do what you like, and that took a second. So let's go back to a picture of her. So yeah, I think that's enough for now. Mask 1. Okay, let's go do something on the eye pupils. So we've got that selected. Now then, what do we want to do? Let's make our eyes now that's changing the whole thing, so I have to do a bit more work on that. But yes, introduction to person masking. Let's go and look at something completely different next. Okay, so let's look at another image. This is a film image, a Kodachrome image of all things. Quite exciting, eh? It's got a bit of a magenta cast like lots of Kodachrome does, but it's interesting because it's got a number of objects in it. So let's go into develop again and test the masking for objects. So there isn't a sky, but what we can do is we can select the background. Let's just say we want to start with that. Start from the back and work forwards. So it's fairly accurately selected the background. There is a little bit of overlay onto that, but you can remove that by brushing that away. So subtract mask will take that away. It's fairly well done. So pressing the O key to get rid of the overlay. So yes, it is a bit magenta, isn't it? Let's take that down. So it's looking more neutral. Slightly warmer perhaps. You're sort of getting there. So that's your background mask in place. Now let's go to the objects. So looking at that, so select subject, sky, background, people, objects. So for this you select a brush and then just kind of brush over it, and that should select the object. So detecting object, and we can work on this individual one again. Tap the O key and let's have a bit more contrast on it. Want a bit more white. Get the whites to pop, blacks to pop, tiny bit of texture, even clarity and saturation. So there we are. That's quickly detected that. Let's see if we can find any more objects. So let's see if we can accurately select this other side. So it gets a little bit more difficult as you go further back. That's not too bad, but I would consider this to be part of that. So yeah, again, we can bring up the exposure, get the blacks down, give it a bit more pop. It's all done very quickly. Now let's try a difficult one. Let's see if we can create a new mask for the actual bike frame. I think that could be a bit difficult. So I think we'll try a smaller brush, well feathered. We've got two options here. As you can see, if I hold it over, it'll come up with the tooltip. So that's a rectangle. So mostly we're in brush, so rectangle is ideal for things like, let's go rectangle and see if we can do like this one, for example. Can you rotate the rectangle? Not so far, but that's worked pretty well. Great for things like number plates. Let's whack open the whites and the blacks again, so we've got lots more contrast. That took a second. Right, back to the original plan. Whoops. Of creating a frame mask. Let's see if we can do that. That's going to be the tricky one. So it's got to be brush, fairly small, I think. Let's go. So frame. Bear in mind I've got wobbly hands, unfortunately, due to medication. So does that work? Okay, not too bad. Can you add to it? So I think we're adding to it still with the object button. Is that doing it? Yeah, I think it's doing it. So you can incrementally add other bits of complex shapes like bicycles, buildings, you know, things that have a lot of 3D components. And so that would work well in nature with flowers, animals, you know, birds, but they've got sort of very 3D type things. So that's all looking good so far, and not taking too long with this particular type of subject. And you can probably see after just really quite a few basic things, it's already sharpened up that rather sort of dull image and giving it a bit more pop. So we'll stop that one and we'll go on to something else. Right, so next image. For analog photographers, they will often spend a lot of time, once you've brought your images in to Lightroom or whatever else, spotting them, getting rid of those dust spots. This is a particularly spotty image taken last winter solstice, Penzance, brand new bus shelter, built after the storms. It's quite a nice image in many ways, but needs work on it, and particularly I want to remove the string of lights, which is very distracting because we don't want that. So I'm now going to test the AI cloning and object removal. So the first thing is, this is the content aware remove, much like the Photoshop content aware remove. So I think I'll bring down the size of that a bit, so we don't want to remove more than we have to. So let's give it a go. Now bear in mind, I've got a shaky hand here. I probably should have used a larger brush, and a tablet here would definitely be an advantage. So how's it doing? So analysing, and yeah, not too bad. There's a little bit of a edge over there. That's probably acceptable. Yeah, we can do that again separately. So yes, that will save quite a bit of time with things, and obviously with these things, so things like these smudges, they're a pain, but we're removing them nice and quickly, much more like Photoshop does. Normally I remove dust spots in Photoshop because of the content aware remove tools like the lasso and so forth. So there we are, it's all kind of what. Now let's try a tricky one. This hair down here, it's a bit of a monster, isn't it? And it's right across several features. So is it gonna go cleanly? Analyzing, and so pretty near faultless job really. Bit of a line here, a little bit of a line here, so you are going to have to go back and at times to check these things, but overall pretty happy with that. So that is again a huge time waster in terms of retouching, with particularly with analog images, because you don't want to spend, you know, an hour sort of spotting them. Sometimes it can be quite therapeutically, but it does really affect your workflow. So good. that one's working out successfully. Okay, so finally we've done the new masking options. Quick run through those. It's not comprehensive, it's just from a user perspective. This is the kind of thing I work on. Let's go back to our portrait and check out the new adaptive presets. Presets are things I don't use that often. I'm not a preset person, but some people do use them extensively. And let's go into develop mode. So on the left, the presets. So adaptive portrait is the one that they particularly mentioned. Oh, I can see they've got adaptive sky and subject, but I don't think that. So let's do preset number 1. Oh, it's detecting. So it's detected whatever. So this should be automatic. Doesn't really appear to have done anything. You drag it on. So can't seem to get that to work. Oh, glamour portrait. Right. Can't seem to get any of these to be working. So that's a bust on that one for me. I guess I'll have to look into that one a little bit more. Right, there we go. Right, rewind. So, adaptive portrait. So it's there on 0 to 100. So the more you drag the slider, the more kind of pronounced that comic book effect goes. Drag it over to the left and the less. So yes, you probably want to go somewhere about here really. So glamour portrait, gritty portrait. Okay, completely the opposite. This takes it to a point where poor old Lorraine looks about 100, and I assure you she doesn't look anything like that. So that's one for the grizzled men and the ones where you want a bit of sort of reality type things. Enhance eyes, how does that work? Oh yeah, that kind of makes them, that's that, like those you see in the magazines where there's sort of superstars are looking at you and looking sort of so intense. So yeah. So now instead of spending hours in Photoshop getting that lot, we can get it in a second. Right? I can imagine that whiten teeth won't work here. We've got no teeth on display. Darken eyebrows. Texture in hair, that might be worth it all. So texture in hair, clearly that brings up the, yeah, so that, so great if you're working in that sort of area, isn't it? You know, models with glossy hair, you can fiddle away to your heart's content. Smooth hair clearly does the opposite. So yeah, so again, if you're looking for a certain look, let's go back to enhance portrait. So yeah, again, it's a little bit like the glamour one, but not quite as drastic. So yeah, these are things probably you need to use with caution, let's just say. I'm probably not going to be using them very often, but there's always an occasion to, and I can imagine that for wedding photographers in particular, that will be a great aid because it will speed up the workflow. And workflow is, you know, if you've taken 500 pictures of the wedding and you've got to get them out to the client the next day, you want them to be one-click solutions. Maybe they can then pick their favorites and you can work properly on the ones that need a little bit of work. Right, so there we have it, my quick user perspective on the new features in Lightroom. Very quick rundown, not in depth, just a let's see how it works, and it does seem mostly to work. It'll require a bit of fine-tuning to get the best out of it, but I can see loads of people getting more out of it, particularly those people who are taking lots of people photographs, street, wedding, portrait, glamour, all that sort of thing. But also useful for guys like me doing a lot of analog photography where you'll be needing to spot things and remove objects, and the content aware remove tools is genius in my opinion. Yeah, some of the things I won't use very much, the presets probably not at all, or only very occasionally when I want to come up with some ideas, but they're there. And certainly for the portrait people, the wedding people, again, they'll be useful one-click solutions, makes life easier. So lots of other enhancements in there. They've done some stuff to the way that it renders things, speeding up the catalog, all that sort of stuff, and in new cameras and file types and all that sort of thing. But that's just this is my perspective, user perspective, somebody who shoots a lot of film as well, so I have slightly different priorities to somebody who's doing a wedding shoot, for example. Yeah, so I hope that was beneficial to add to all the other ones that come out. Go and watch the guys who really know what they're talking about, and go in depth. So, you know, people like Flern and Pix Imperfect and Julianne Cost and all those experts really know, but this is my perspective. You might have a similar perspective. So yeah, thanks for watching this little video, and again, hope it was useful. Bye for now.